Coffee. Vital for a large number of people's morning routine and traded in increasingly large quantities. Hi, in this episode of Commodity Brief, we're going to be having a look at coffee. Now, coffee is a really interesting commodity because there are very few commodities that so many people actually consume and are attached to in their daily lives, or that are so important for their morning ritual. So essentially, coffee is a brewed drink which is created from coffee beans, which are in turn the seeds from the coffee plant. And we're looking at a production of about 9.5 million tonnes per year. In terms of that production, it can be broken down amongst the different countries. So first of all, by far the largest is Brazil, with over a third of the world's production. And then we also have Indonesia and Vietnam and Colombia, which are making up the balance. So quite concentrated within a few number of countries. And if you look at the map, you can see that it is very much concentrated towards the equator. And that's essentially the areas where it is warm enough to grow in good quantities. Otherwise, in terms of the coffee consumption, now here this is changing rapidly as time goes by. There are more and more areas which are becoming opened up to coffee, and there are different parts of the world which drink their coffee in different ways. And so if you go to the United States, or if you go to Italy, or if you go to Vietnam, what is considered to be a good cup of coffee will be completely different. So first of all, you can see that it is very, very well spread out. Europe is about a third of global consumption. North America and South America put together about another third. And so very much evenly split across the globe. In terms of the trading of coffee, it is dominated by a few very large trading companies. So first of all, we have Louis Dreyfus Company, who are very, very active in many different commodities. We have Sucofina, which specialises in coffee and are very, very, very well known to this. And they have a specialised brand called Tree to Cup, which essentially focus on very, very high market, high level types of coffee. We have Ecom and Olam. Olam are very present in a number of different commodities, but they're very, very good at the logistical side and handling the marketing of coffee itself. In terms of the end buyers, coffee tends to be bought very, very largely by a few companies which then distribute it to the consumer. So obviously we know very well the Nespresso from Nestle, which is a common sight in most offices these days. And we also have Kraft Foods and Sara Lee, which also buy very large quantities. Now, in terms of the coffee itself, when you are handling the transportation of coffee, you need to be very, very careful with the type of packaging that has been used, and you have to be very careful to make sure that the moisture content does not get out of control. First of all, the packaging we'll use a lot of jute bags. So these are bags which are made of fibre strands, and what's interesting about these is that they allow for the air to flow through, and so they don't encourage more moisture to be formed. They allow the moisture to flow out. Now, it is often transported in jute bags, and these can either be transported on a vessel, on a complete vessel, but you need a very large quantity, or more commonly, they'll be transported on containers. And so we're seeing more and more containers of coffee going around the world. Now, I mentioned the issue with moisture. You need to be incredibly careful because one of the biggest dangers as far as coffee is moisture and the creation of mold. And so as soon as the moisture content goes above about 12%, then at the end of your voyage, you're most likely to open up the vessel and find a cargo of mold. And so you need to be very, very careful of this and take very careful control of it. And when you're loading the cargo, you will do tests to know what the moisture content is, what the humidity of the cargo is. So that brings us towards the end of looking at coffee. Again, it's a very interesting commodity because some people feel very, very, very strongly about it. Some people are very, very attached to it. A lot of people can't start their day without a cup of coffee. And when we're looking at global production of about 9.5 million tonnes, nearly any coffee that you are drinking has travelled about 4,000 miles just to get into your cup. And so it is a very, very global industry and requires some very, very efficient logistics and transportation means. So that brings us to the end of looking at coffee. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Commodity Brief, and please click back more for more episodes to come.